For the world, it was first reported as a tragic accident. For investigators, it quickly became something far more disturbing. In the spring of 1998, a married couple, Tom and Eileen Lonergan, boarded a commercial diving boat off the coast of Australia. They were eager to explore the vibrant, teeming depths of the Coral Sea. Both were experienced divers, calm, methodical, and deeply connected, not only to each other but to the ocean itself. This wasn't their first dive, and it certainly wasn't their most challenging. It was supposed to be a routine exploration, lasting less than an hour. The boat anchored, the divers splashed into the turquoise water, and the world below opened up to them. Corals branched out like a stone forest, and schools of fish moved like living clouds. Down there, time moves differently. The only sound is your own breathing, a steady rhythm in the vast, silent cathedral of the sea. For Tom and Eileen, this was their sanctuary. But on the surface, time was moving much faster. When the boat resurfaced and began collecting its divers, no one noticed the mistake at first. The crew was busy, headcounts were rushed. Performed by tired staff looking forward to heading back to shore. Names were checked on a list, but not physically verified against the people on board. A simple error, a momentary lapse in procedure, but one with devastating consequences. The engines roared to life. The boat turned and began its journey back to the mainland. Tom and Eileen were still underwater, completely unaware that their lifeline to the surface world was pulling away. When they finally surfaced, the ocean greeted them with an unnerving emptiness. The familiar shape of the dive boat was gone. There was only the endless blue of the water meeting the endless blue of the sky. Panic must have been the first wave to hit them. But as experienced divers, they would have suppressed it. They would have checked their gear, oriented themselves, and started to think logically. The boat would come back, it had to. It was just a mistake. They would be missed. By the time the error was discovered hours later, back on dry land, the sea had already erased all traces of them. Their bubbles had vanished, their fins left no wake. Their sense of direction was swallowed by the immense, indifferent ocean. The alarm was raised, and a massive search and rescue operation was launched. For days, then weeks, then months, the search continued. Helicopters traced the horizon, their rotors beating against the sea breeze. Divers scanned the depths, hoping to find any sign, but there was nothing. The ocean, which had been their passion, now kept its most profound silence. The world moved on, and the story of the missing divers slowly faded from the headlines. Until one morning, nearly 3 months later, a fisherman operating his boat more than 160 kilometers from the original dive site noticed something bobbing in the water. It was small, rectangular, and sun-bleached, floating unnaturally against the current. Curiosity got the better of him, and he leaned over the side, pulling it aboard. He realized it was a diver's underwater writing slate, a simple tool for communicating in the silent world below. What he saw written on it made his hand shake. The message was short, desperate, final. Monday, January 26.8 To anyone who finds this. We have been abandoned at sea. The handwriting was uneven, pressed hard into the slate, as if carved by panic and a trembling hand. Below it, another line, a plea to a world that couldn't hear them, help us before it is too late. Investigators immediately confirmed what they had feared. The slate belonged to Eileen Lonergan. But the most chilling part of this discovery wasn't just what the message said. It was when it was written. The date and timestamp, January 26th at 8 a.m., was the morning after they had been left behind. This single detail transformed the narrative from a sudden, tragic accident into a prolonged, agonizing ordeal. It meant they had survived the initial abandonment. They surfaced, realized the boat was gone, and they waited. Alone, adrift in the vast, open water with no land in sight, clinging to the hope that someone would realize the mistake and turn back. Experts pieced together the harrowing timeline. The couple likely remained afloat for hours, possibly even days, holding on to one another as the powerful currents slowly but surely carried them farther and farther away from the dive site and any potential rescue route. The tropical sun would have been merciless, burning their exposed skin by day. Then, as night fell, the cold of the deep ocean would have crept into their bones, sapping their strength and their will. Dehydration would have set in, clouding their thoughts, turning hope into a delirious mirage on the horizon. And then there was the world beneath them. The coral sea is teeming with life, and that includes sharks. While not typically aggressive towards humans, they are intensely curious predators. Marine biologists believe they would have been drawn to the unusual shapes on the surface silent, circling, investigating. One of their fins was later recovered, and it showed distinct bite marks, a silent testament to the terrors they faced in their final hours. The writing slate contained more. On the back, etched so faintly it was barely visible, was a second message. This one was written later, when hope had already begun to collapse into despair. It is now very late. We are still alive, but the water is too rough. God help us. There was no space left on the slate for more words. There was no goodbye, no final declaration of love written for posterity, just the stark, terrifying acknowledgement of time passing and their strength fading away into the unforgiving sea. Search teams never found their bodies. There were no remains, no final resting place. The ocean gave back only fragments of their story, a tattered dive vest, a single fin, and the slate with its desperate messages. Some investigators believe that once exhaustion and hypothermia became unbearable, the couple made a final, conscious decision together. They may have removed their gear, choosing to let the ocean take them on their own terms, rather than endure the prolonged agony of waiting. Others speculate that something darker happened, that perhaps one of them disappeared first, leaving the other to face the end alone and write that final, haunting message. What makes the case of Tom and Eileen Lonergan so truly haunting is not the simple mistake of a miscount. It's the gap in time, their agonizing space between their realization and the world's. They were not lost in an instant. They were not gone without knowing what was happening to them. They had time. Time to understand the gravity of their situation. Time to hope that the boat's silhouette would appear on the horizon. Time to feel that hope curdle into fear, and that fear into a grim acceptance. And time to write. Today, that slate is preserved behind glass in a museum, its words frozen forever. It's a message that was never intended for history, but for any passing boat, for anyone who might come close enough to hear a human voice echoing across an indifferent sea. It serves as a chilling reminder that sometimes the most terrifying part of the end is not the moment it arrives, but the long, deafening silence that stretches out before it. And somewhere out there, beyond the horizon, where the currents still drift endlessly, the ocean continues to keep whatever answers were never written down. Thank you for watching. If you found this story as moving as we did, please consider subscribing for more explorations into the world's most compelling mysteries. Stay curious and stay safe.